Section 6 of The House of the White Shadows. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The House of the White Shadows by B.L. Farjeon. Section 6. Book 1, Chapters 12 and 13. Chapter 12. The Struggle of Love and Duty. In his lonely room in the mountain hut in which he had taken up his quarters, Christian Almer sat writing. It was early morning. He had risen before the sun. During the past week he had struggled earnestly with the terror which oppressed him. His suffering had been great, but he believed he was conquering. The task he had imposed upon himself of setting his duty before him in clear terms afforded him consolation. The book in which he was writing contained the record of a love which had filled him with unrest, and threatened to bring dishonor into his life. "I thank Heaven," he wrote, "that I am calmer than I have been for several days. Separation has proved an inestimable blessing. The day may come when I shall look upon my love as dead, and shall be able to think of it as one thinks of a beloved being whom death has snatched away. Even now, as I think of her, there is no fever in the thought. I have not betrayed my friend. How would he regard me if he were acquainted with my mad passion? If he knew that the woman he adored looked upon him with aversion, and gave her love to the friend whom he trusted as a brother? There was the error: to listen to her confession of love, and to make confession of my own. That a man should so forget himself, should he be so completely the slave of his passions? How came it about? When were the first words spoken? She sat by my side, radiant and beautiful. Admiring glances from every part of the theatre were cast upon her. In a corner of the box sat her husband, silent and thoughtful, heedless of the brilliant scene before him, heedless of her, as it seemed, heedless of the music and the singers. Royalty was there, immediately facing us, and princes levelled their opera glasses at her. There are moments of intoxication when reason and conscience desert us. We were stepping into the carriage when a note was delivered to him. He read it, and said, "I cannot go with you. I am called away. You will not miss me, as I do not dance. I will join you in a couple of hours." So we went alone, we two together, and her hand rested lightly upon mine. And in the dance the words were spoken, words never to be recalled. What demon prompted them? Why did not an angel whisper to me, "Remember, there is a tomorrow"? But in the present the morrow is forgotten. A false sense of security shuts out all thoughts of the consequences of our actions. A selfish delight enthralls us, and we do not see the figure of retribution hovering above us. It is only when we are alone with our conscience that this figure is visible. Then it is that we tremble, then it is that we hear words which appall us. Again and again this has occurred to me, and I have vowed to myself that I would tear myself from her, a vow as worthless as the gambler's resolve to play no more. Drawn irresistibly forward, and finding in every meeting a shameful justification in the delusion that I was seeing her for the last time, and leaving her with a promise to come again soon. Incredible infatuation! But to listen to the recital of her sorrows and unhappiness without sympathizing with her, it was not possible; and to hear her whisper, "I love you, and only you," without being thrilled by the confession, a man would need to be made of stone. How often has she said to me, when speaking of her husband, "He has no heart"? Can I, then, aver with any semblance of honesty that I have not betrayed my friend? Basely have I betrayed him. If I were sure that she would not suffer, if I were sure that she would forget me. Coldness, neglect, indifference, they are sharp weapons, but I deserve to bleed. Still, I cry out against my fate. I have committed no crime. Love came to me and tortured me. But a man must perform a man's duty. I will strive to perform mine. Then, in years to come, I may be able to think of the past without shame, even with pride at having conquered. I have destroyed her portrait. I could not look upon her face and forget her." A voice from an adjoining room caused him to lay aside his pen. It was the peasant, the master of the hut, calling to him, and asking if he was ready. He went out to the man. "I heard you stirring," said the peasant, "and my young ones are waiting to show you where the edelweiss can be found." The children, a boy and a girl, looked eagerly at Christian Almer. It had been arranged on the previous day that the three should go for a mountain excursion in search of the flower that brings good luck and good fortune to the finder. The children were sturdy limbed and ruddy faced, and were impatient to be off. "Breakfast first," said Christian Almer, pinching the little girl's cheek. Brown bread, honey, goat's milk, and an omelette were on the table, and the stranger, who had been as a godsend to the poor family, enjoyed the homely fare. The peasant had already calculated that if his lodger lived a year in the hut, they would save 500 francs, a fortune. Christian Almer had been generous to the children, in whose eyes he was something more than mortal. Money is a magic power. "Will the day be fine?" asked Christian. "Yes," said the peasant, "but there will be a change in the evening. The little ones will know, you can trust to them." Young as they were, they could read the signs on Nature's face, and could teach their gentleman friend wise things, great and rich as he was. The father accompanied them for a couple of miles. He was a goatherd, and, unlike others of his class, was by no means a silent man. "You live a happy life here," said Christian Almer. "Why, yes," said the peasant, "it is happy enough. We have to eat, but not to spare. There is the trouble. Still, God be thanked. The children are strong and healthy. That is another reason for thankfulness." "Is your wife, as you are, mountain born?" "Yes, and could tell you stories. And there," said the peasant, pointing upwards afar off, as though it knew my wife were being talked of, "there is the Lämmergeier." An enormous vulture, which seemed to have suddenly grown out of the air, was suspended in the clouds. So motionless was it that it might have been likened to a sculptured work, wrought by an angel's hand, and fixed in heaven as a sign. It could not have measured less than 10 feet from wing to wing. Its colour was brown, with bright edges and white quills, and its fiery eyes were encircled by broad orange-shaded rings. "My wife," said the peasant, "has reason to remember the Lämmergeier. When she was 3 years old, her father took her to a part of the mountains where they were haymaking, and not being able to work and attend to her at the same time, he set her down by the side of a hut. It was a fine sunny day, and Anna fell asleep. Her father, seeing her sleeping calmly, covered her face with a straw hat and continued his work. 2 hours afterwards he went to the spot, and Anna was gone. He searched for her everywhere, and all the haymakers assisted in the search, but Anna was nowhere to be found. My father and I was a mere lad at the time, 5 years older than Anna, were walking towards a mountain stream, 3 miles from where Anna had been sleeping, when I heard the cry of a child. It came from a precipice, and above this precipice a vulture was flying. We went in the direction of the cry, and found Anna lying on the edge of the precipice, clinging to the roots with her little hand. She was slipping down, and would have slipped to certain death had we been 3 minutes later. It was a difficult task to rescue her as it was, but we managed it, and carried her to her father. She had no cap to her head, and no shoes or stockings on her feet. She had lost them in her flight through the air in the vulture's beak. She has a scar on her arm to this day as a remembrance of her acquaintance with the Lammergeier. So it fell out afterwards, when she was a young woman, that I married her." Ever and again as they walked onwards, Christian Almer turned to look upon the vulture, which remained perfectly still, with its wings outstretched, until it was hid from his sight by the peculiar formation of the valleys they were traversing. Hitherto their course had lain amidst masses of the most beautiful flowers. Gentians with purple bells, others spotted and yellow, with brilliant whorls of bloom, the lilac-flowered campanula, the anemone, the blue columbine and starwort, the lovely forget-me-not, which Christian Almer mentally likened to bits of heaven dropped down, and the alpine rose, the queen of alpine flowers. Now all was changed. The track was bare of foliage, not a blade of grass peeped up from the barren rocks. "There is good reason for it," said the peasant. "Here, long years ago, a man killed his brother in cold blood. Since that day no flowers will grow upon the spot. There are nights on which the spirit of the murderer wanders mournfully about these rocks. A black dog accompanies him, whose bark you can sometimes hear. This valley is accursed." Soon afterwards the peasant left Christian Almer to the guidance of the children, and with them the young man spent the day, sharing contentedly with them the black bread and hard sausage they had brought for dinner. This midday meal was eaten as they sat beside a lake, in the waters of which there was not a sign of life, and Christian Almer noticed that as the children ate they watched the bosom of this lake with a strange and singular interest. "What are you gazing at?" he asked, curious to learn. "For the dead white trout," answered the boy. "Whenever a priest dies it floats upon the lake." In the lower heights, where the fir trees stretched their feathery tips to the clouds, they found the flower they were in search of, and the children were wild with delight. The sun was setting when they returned to the hut, tired and gratified with their day's wanderings. The peasant's wife smiled as she saw the edelweiss. "A lucky love flower," she said to Christian Almer. These simple words proved to him how hard was the lesson of forgetfulness he was striving to learn. He was profoundly agitated by them. Night fell, and the clouds grew black. "The wind is rising," said the peasant. "An ill night for travellers. Here is one coming towards us." It proved to be a guide who lived in the nearest post village, and who, duly commissioned for the service, brought to Christian Almer the letters of the Advocate and his wife. "A storm is gathering," said the guide. "I must find shelter on the heights to night." In his lonely room Christian Almer broke the seals, and by the dull light of a single candle read the lines written by friend to friend, by lover to lover. The thunder rolled over the mountains, the lightning flashed through the small window, the storm was upon him. He read the letters once only, but every word was impressed clearly upon his brain. For an hour he sat in silence, gazing vacantly at the edelweiss on the table, the lucky love flower. The peasant's wife called to him, and asked if he wanted anything. "Nothing," he replied, in a voice that sounded strange to him. "I will leave the bread and milk on the table," she said. "Good night." He did not answer her, nor did he respond to the children's good night. Their voices, the children's especially, seemed to his ears to come from a great distance. A drop of rain fell from the roof upon the candle and extinguished the light. For a long while he remained in darkness, until all in the hut were sleeping. Then he went out into the wild night, clutching the letters tight in his hand. He staggered almost blindly onwards, and in the course of half an hour found himself standing on a narrow and perilous bridge, from which the few travellers who passed that way could obtain a view of a torrent which dashed with sublime and terrific force over a precipice upon the rocks below, 1,000 feet down. "If I were to grow dizzy now," he muttered, with a reckless laugh. And he tempted fate by leaning over the narrow bridge, and gazing downwards into the dark depths. Indistinct shapes grew out of the mighty and eternal waterfall, of hosts and angry men battling with each other, of rushing horses, of armies of vultures swooping down for prey, of accusing and beautiful faces, of smiling mouths and white teeth flashing, and, amidst the whirl, sounds of shrieks and laughter. Suddenly he straightened himself, and tearing Adelaide's letter into 1,000 pieces, flung the evidence of a treacherous love into the furious torrent of waters, and as he did so he thought that there were times in a man's life when death were the best blessing which Heaven could bestow upon him. CHAPTER XIII. The Trial of Gautran. The trial of Gautran was proceeding, and the court was thronged with an excited gathering of men and women, upon whom not a word in the story of the tragic drama was thrown away. Impressed by the great powers of the Advocate who had undertaken to appear for the accused, the most effective measures had been adopted to prove Gautran's guilt, and to obtain a conviction. It was a legal battle, fought with all the subtle weapons at the disposal of the law. Gautran's prosecutors fought with faces unmasked, and with their hands displayed. The Advocate, on the contrary, was pursuing a course which none could fathom, nor did he give a clue to it. Long before the case was closed, the jury were ready to deliver their verdict. But, calm and unmoved, the Advocate, with amazing patience, followed out his secret theory, the revelation of which was awaited, by those who knew him best and feared him most, with intense and painful curiosity. Every disreputable circumstance in Gautran's life was raked up to display the odiousness of his character. His infamous career was tracked from his childhood to the hour of his arrest. A creature more debased, with features more hideous, it would have been difficult to drag forward from the worst haunts of crime and shame. Degraded he was born, degraded he had lived, degraded he stood before his judges. It was a horror to gaze upon his face as he stood in the dock, convulsively clutching the rails. For 8 days he had so stood, execrated and condemned by all. For 8 days he had endured the anguish of 1,000 deaths, of a myriad agonizing fears. His soul had been harrowed by the most awful visions, visions of which none but himself had any conception. In his cell, with the gaolers watching his every movement; in the court, with the glare of daylight upon him; in the dusky corridors he traversed morning and evening, he saw the phantom of the girl with whose murder he was charged, and by her side the phantom of himself standing on the threshold of a future in which there was no mercy or pity. No communication passed between him and the lawyer who was fighting for him. Not once did the Advocate turn to the prisoner or address a word to him. It was as though he were battling for a victory in which Gautran was in no wise concerned. But if indeed he desired to win, he adopted the strangest tactics to accomplish his desire. Not a question he asked the witnesses, not an observation he made to the judge, but tended to fix more surely on the prisoner's degradation, and gradually there stole into Gautran's heart a deadly hatred and animosity against his defender. "He defends me to ruin me." This was Gautran's thought. "He is seeking to destroy me, body and soul." His own replies to the question put to him by the judge were sufficient to convict him. He equivocated and lied in the most barefaced manner, and when he was exposed and reproved, evinced no shame, preserving either a dogged silence, or obstinately exclaiming that the whole world was leagued against him. Apart from the question whether he was lying or speaking the truth, there was a certain consistency in his method which would have been of service to him, had his cause been good. This was especially noticeable when he was being interrogated with respect to his relations with the murdered girl. "You insist," said the judge, "that Madeline accepted you as her lover?" "Yes," replied Gautran, "I insist upon it." "Evidence will be brought forward to prove that it was not so. What, then, will you answer?" "That whoever denies it is a liar." "And if a dozen or 20 deny it?" "They lie, the lot of them." "What should make them speak falsely instead of truly?" "Because they are all against me." "There is no other evidence except your bare statement that Madeline and you were affianced." "That is my misfortune. If she were alive she could speak for me." "It is a safe remark, the poor child being in her grave. It is the rule for young girls to love men whose appearance is not repulsive." "Is this," cried Gautran, smiting his face with his fist, "to stand as a witness against me too?" "No, but a girl has generally a cause for falling in love. If the man be not attractive in appearance, it is almost certain he will possess some other quality to attract her. He may be clever, and this may win her." "I do not pretend to be clever." "His manners may be engaging, his nature may be kind and affectionate, and she may have had proof of it." "My nature is kind and affectionate. It may have been that, if you were determined upon having a reason for her fondness for me." "She was fond of you?" "Aye." "Did she tell you so, and when?" "Always, when we were alone." "We cannot have Madeline's evidence as to the feeling she entertained for you, but we can have the evidence of others who knew you both. Are you acquainted with Katherine Scherer?" "Not too well. We were never very intimate." "She is a young woman a few years older than Madeline, and she warned Madeline against you. She herself had received instances of your brutality. Before you saw Madeline, you made advances toward Katherine Scherer." "False! She made advances towards me. She asked me to be her lover, and now she speaks against me out of revenge." "She has not spoken yet, but she will. Madeline told her that she trembled at the sight of you, and had entreated you not to follow her, but that you would not be shaken off." "It is my way. I will never be balked." "It is true, therefore, you paid no attention to this poor girl's entreaties because it is your way not to allow yourself to be balked." "I did not mean that. I was thinking of other matters." "Katherine Scherrer has a mother." "Yes, a woman of no account." "Some time ago this mother informed you, if you did not cease to pester Katherine with your insulting proposals, that she would have you beaten. I should like to see the man who would have attempted it." "That is savagely spoken for one whose nature is kind and affectionate." "May not a man defend himself? I don't say I am kind and affectionate to men, but I am to women." "The murdered girl found you so. Hearing from her daughter that Madeline was frightened of you, and did not wish you to follow her, Katherine's mother desired you to let the girl alone." "She lies." "They all lie who utter a word against you?" "Every one of them." "You never courted Katherine Scherrer?" "Never." "Her mother never spoke to you about either her daughter or Madeline?" "Never." "Do you know the Widow Joseph?" "No." "Madeline lodged in her house." "What is that to me?" "Did she never speak to you concerning Madeline?" "Never." "Attend. 4 nights before Madeline met her death, you were seen prowling outside Widow Joseph's house." "I was not there." "The Widow Joseph came out and asked you what you wanted." "She did not." "You said you must see Madeline. The Widow Joseph went into the house, and returned with the message that Madeline would not see you. Upon that you tried to force your way into the house, and struck the woman because she prevented you. Madeline came down, alarmed at the sounds of the struggle, and begged you to go away, and you said you would, now that you had seen her, as you had made up your mind to. What have you to say to this?" "A batch of lies. 20 women could not have prevented me getting into the house." "You think yourself a match for 20 women?" "Aye." "And for as many men?" "For one man, whoever he may be. Give me the chance of proving it." "Do you know Heinrich Heitz?" "No." "He is, like yourself, a woodcutter." "There are thousands of woodcutters." "Did you and he not work together as partners?" "We did not." "Were you not continually quarrelling? And did he not wish to break the partnership?" "No." "In consequence of this, did you not threaten to murder him?" "No." "Did you not strike him with a weapon and cut his forehead open?" "No." "How many women have you loved?" "One." "Her name?" "Madeline." "You never loved another?" "Never." "Have you been married?" "No." "Have you ever lived with a woman who should have been your wife?" "Never." "Did you not continually beat this poor woman until her life became a burden to her, and she was compelled to fly from you to another part of the country?" "No." "Do you expect to be believed in the answers you have given?" "No." "It is said that you possess great strength." "It has served me in good stead." "That you are a man of violent passions." "I have my feelings. I would never submit to be trampled on." "You were always kind to Madeline?" "Always." "On the night of her murder?" "Yes." "Witnesses will prove that you were heard to say, 'I will kill you! I will kill you!' Do you deny saying so?" "No." "How does that cruel threat accord with a mild and affectionate nature?" I was asking her whether she had another lover, and I said if she had, and encouraged him, that I would kill her." "The handkerchief found round her neck was yours." "I gave it to her as a love gift." "A terrible love gift. It was not wound loosely around her neck. It was tight, almost to strangulation." "She must have made it so in her struggles, or—" "Or?" "The man who killed her must have attempted to strangle her with it." "That is your explanation?" "Yes." "Your face is bathed in perspiration. Your eyes glare wildly." "Change places with me, and see how you would feel." "Such signs, then, are the signs of innocence?" "What else should they be?" During this long examination, Gautran's limbs trembled violently, and there passed over his face the most frightful expressions. Section 7